Hello, welcome to another week of the DP World Tour Picks and Bets. Skylar, Hoke here with Tom Jacobs. We have left South Africa, Tom, finding our way back to the rest of the world. Qatar Masters here, an old event for us. Commercial Bank Qatar Masters, something we've seen on the schedule for a while. Of course, we're familiar with. Feeling a little bit better about this week. How are you feeling?
It's interesting because you say we've departed South Africa, but South Africa just creeps its way back into the fold. I'll have a little tidbit on that later. But yeah, there's a decent South African influences. But we're back to a golf course that we haven't seen since 2019, right? So straight off the top, let's just make sure everyone's aware of that. We were in Education City for the past 2 years. We're now back to Doha, which is the original venue of this event, was from 1999 to 2019. So long history, a lot of guys that have got a decent bank of form there. And I think it's more straightforward this time around, although I had a harder time making picks because there's a bit more information available.
Yeah, it's state of the DP World Tour is still not this last month has been hard to really bank on much. Each week seems high variance, different leaderboards. Last week felt like a Sunshine Tour event with Norris and Burmeister challenging, each other down the stretch there. It's just harder. I think it's been a difficult stretch for many people since we've left those two Rolex Series events to kick off. But yeah, I'm excited to have a bank of knowledge to work with, feel a little bit more comfortable than usual. So it does end up being a similar field, but I think there's a lot more opportunities to take advantage of and feel more confident in. So I think really with that, we can dive in. I guess from a course perspective, last time we saw this, Justin Harding was the winner at the course. There was an 8-way tie for second, or like 9-way tie for second that year when Harding won by 2. And it does look like the wind is going to play into a significant factor potentially this week. And the course is a bit more open. So what's your take on Doha overall?
I think it's interesting because I think you hear all that and you think you want the kind of links guys, bit of distance, take advantage of that. And then you look at the winners here and it doesn't necessarily correlate somewhere. I mean, it does to an extent, but when you go back to the guys that fit that mold and you look at the Sergios and the Adam Scotts, they're just the best guys in the field, right? When you look at the more recent winners, Justin Harding, not necessarily prestigious length, Eddie Pepperell, not well known for length, Young Hun Wang, I can't exactly remember his profile again, but again, don't think he's the longest player. And Brandon Grace is what Brandon Grace is, right? So the most recent winners don't necessarily suggest you have to go one route. Joachim Lagergren was someone that's finished second. Nacho Elvira has finished at Campillo. So there's a lot of guys that well, I don't want to say plodders, that's wrong, but steady guys that can get it done. So I don't think you rule out any one player here. I think the wind obviously can play a part, like you said, but the scoring should be pretty decent still. I'd have thought 15 under sort of score.
Yeah, definitely a shift to short game when you think of some of those guys that you just keep ran through. Now, it's hard to bank on, I think, something specific. I think we're going to go with some corollary form, go in with some informed guys, go in with some of that history of guys that have played well. I think having that combination just sets us up much better. And the odds, I mean, and you have, the starting odds, Dean Burmeister, 16-1, as he should be the well-on favorite here. Based off of that. Audrey Arnaus comes in 22-1. I don't know why he withdrew last week. He was on the initial field and now he's out. I don't know if there's enough to separate those two by 6 points personally. Same with Smith by another 6 points there. Could see it mixed in the middle, but I think those 4 are what they are. And if you're gonna make your selection, what you're playing with.
If I had to take one, and if anyone wants a favorite guy, it'd be George Coetzee for me. Like 2 seconds, 3 top 8s, a 12th at this golf course, 35th as well, 1 miscut in 7 starts. He's just great, and he's one of the clearest examples of South African players really playing well here. And I'll go into that now. So for 5 of the last 7 renewals, you've either had a South African finish first or second. So 3 times a South African has won the event. 2014 and 2018 were the only 2 years that South African didn't finish first and second. And there was in 2014 there was two in tie for fifth and one tied ninth. And in 2018, Cote d'Ivoire finished eighth. So, it's probably a little bit of just the strength of field, right? And there's a lot of South Africans on the European or DP World Tour who cross over from a bit of Sunshine Tour form. So I don't think there's anything. I wouldn't go, you need to have a South African in your lineup, but it's interesting that they do seem to play well here, and it's something that I definitely considered.
The one for me, I mean, we've been tempting fate with this start for the first time in quite a while, and it does take a lot for me not to bet Ju Young Kim. It's sub 30, 29-1. Pedigree, it is what it is, and the chances that he's gotten. I think the world of the kid. Last few starts haven't been as good as his run last year, being the Order of Merit winner on the Asian Tour. 29-1 on it. I don't think it's bad. I'll probably be there on DraftKings personally as my pick of the litter up there, but I just ended up feeling more comfortable kind of going down the board as we went. I know both of us kind of did, but I'm really excited for Ju Young and to maybe get some consistent starts. If he plays well, continue that path and kind of fill what they want. Because the other thing is he probably could have gotten starts if he wanted to. Maybe he hasn't wanted to take that until it's kind of that area of the world.
Yeah, I think for me, he played in Saudi, didn't he? Right, and
yes,
we tried to play him there, didn't we? And we took him at a number that we really shouldn't have done. We took him at, what was he, like 50-1 in a really elite field, and that was because we were excited about the upside, and it didn't pan out. And I think that would probably be a similar case here. So I think you're right to probably avoid him. I think the 28-1 is about as short as you're going to get on Ju Young Kim this year. Unless, of course, he wins this week, then obviously the pedigree comes in and he goes into, Ardre and House and Burmeister territory. But I think for me, I think you're wise to kind of start with probably the next guy on the odds board.
Yeah, and that's where, for me, if I'm looking at, I guess I made this similar suggestion last week, and I'm not taking 1 week into sample. I'm taking of who's literally been the best golfer, from a pure finishing standpoint on the DP World Tour. And it's hard to say over the last stretch of golf that anybody has been as good as Oliver Becker, as consistent as Oliver Becker. Once again, last week, a 3rd, 11th, 8th, 9th for all his events. 2 of them only being in South Africa. So, he's been out there playing a little bit. I just think 45-1 just doesn't feel respective of that form. And the approach numbers were the best they had been in that run the last 2 weeks. Off the tee was really good. It's really the first week last week he paired his off the tee with approach in 1 week. He didn't really putt all that well. So I think he's just too much. Last week was Matthew Pavon for me in this range. He ended up getting beat by Andrea Pavon. So I don't think I can ever bat Matthew Pavon again after that. So, but Oliver Becker for me, just that consistent 5 events in a row, and to be 45-1 still, it just doesn't sit with me very well. I think it's a definite play.
I just haven't got over the fact that he didn't beat Daniel Ventonda, and it was purely because Daniel Ventonda got over that creek, and I put him on the so-called shit list that I put Wilco Nineaber on last week, and then Wilco Nineaber decided to play really well over the weekend, which really wound me up because he was 7 under and then missed a cut the week before. And then Brandon Stone decided to do the same thing. So I've just got good guys that start well and miss the cut. But Oliver Becker, I think it'd be crazy just to completely rule him out. Like I think at the moment the numbers sort of suggest that people don't think he can win. Which is just wrong. Like he's just playing too well for that. So I'm pretty comfortable with you going with Oliver Becker there, although I haven't myself.
Yeah, that's just enough stretch of reason for me. Just proves okay. We can take this bite and go with what we've been watching for a while. I believe the next guy on the odds board is somebody we align with here. I don't want to sneak over. Yeah, let's go into Matty Schmid. Formerly Matthias Schmid, but now Matty.
Yeah, so I've got one that we'll come back to, but Matty Schmid is He's improving, right? Tees green, like he's gone 42nd, 24th, 14th the last 3 weeks. There's a little bit of variance depending on what sites you use, but this is tour tips compared to the DP World Tour site. If you go to DP Tour site, he's actually better. The irons are not great. So the irons haven't been good. From what I watched yesterday, he ended up in a couple of bunkers when he shouldn't have done. And, but the upside is there. Like, it's 100% there. We talk about Jeong Kim. Matty Schmid is a guy that everyone's been really excited to bet since the Open Championship, right? And he was good there. And I just think it's a good course for him. I think that it rewards good current form. He's obviously got that in abundance right now. So I didn't want to think too much about Matty Schmid. I think obviously the irons can improve, but I'd like to view that as a scope for improvement as opposed to a downside.
Yeah, it's just the biggest thing for me was takeaways. He's had multiple weeks with rounds that are like rounds of the day. Last week he did twice almost. I think it's 63 in round 3 was the round of the day, or 64. Yeah, sky high upside. And I didn't hate, our friend Ben Coley does like that links angle a little bit this week. He'll probably talk about it potentially with a golfer really late on down the board. Schmid played well in that Open Championship at his first kind of cutting his teeth there. So I think that's interesting. We did skip over one of your golfers. One of them 65-1, Schmidt 66-1 in the States here. But you're going back to the well with a recent winner, golfer who does nab victories higher than most do. Ashen Wu, walk us through.
Ashen Wu. So I always love Ashen Wu, and he always looks a big price, and then I've come to bet him and he plays terribly. So expect that to happen. Spoiler alert, he will probably miss the cut. But I've been really impressed with how he has actually responded to that victory, right? He's not a guy that we can necessarily rely on to be consistent, but after the win, he finished 23rd at the My Golf Life Open, where he was 11th after 54 holes. And then last week, he was 25th, really steady all week, never really got going. But I just think he's playing well. I just think he's responded to that really well. In terms of strokes gained tees green, he's gone 4th, 32nd, 6th. In approach, he's gone 4th, 22nd, 3rd. He's got a 6th and 9th in Dubai. He's got a 12th at Abu Dhabi, 13th in Saudi. So he plays this kind of area of the world really, really well. Hasn't got that links pedigree that maybe you'd like to put a bow on it. But when you look at the kind of profile of the people that have won here, I actually think Ashen Wu fits that quite nicely.
Yeah, he was outstanding on that Sunday recently. I think that's a fair way to put it. Just really separated himself from the field that week. I never mind going back there. For me, when I'm digging in a little bit deeper into recent form, into even a little bit, if we mention that course history, and if we want to talk about guys getting in the winner's circle, we do know that Marcus Kinholt, if we're sticking on, we moved off of the Safari Golf Tour form, but we can still talk about the Nordic Golf League form.
We can.
It's a sad thing that Pedro Oriol's not in this field because he's kind of got 2 good starts on that tour as well. But we did see a 9th and then a victory for Marcus Kinholt there, followed that up with an 8th place. And that probably was about as bad as you could have done on that Sunday from the back 9 position he was in. Shot 72 that day. So you see a top 10 here. I think it was a top 5 here. His first time that he played the course, just pairing that together, 66-1. He is another guy. I guess that year he won the British Masters probably isn't links at all. But some type of form in there. But I just think, again, his sky high talent is better than many in this range. And we've seen it. And I love the last time we saw him play.
The only thing, he was actually on my long, short, whatever you want to call it, list. And the only reason I kind of ruled him out is the irons and driver weren't necessarily as good. Like, nothing kind of stood out. If he was really good with the driver last time or really good with the irons, I would go in. And that's a tricky, again, I've always spoken about this myself, that's kind of paralysis by analysis, right? If you just dive into the stats and don't like what you see, you can just talk yourself out of things. And ultimately, he's playing well. So I think the upside of Marcus Kinholt is really good. I think, was he 3rd here 2 starts ago, so 2018? He was 4th after 54 holes and then stepped forward in the final round as well. So I like that. I like the fact that over the weekend he was right in the mix, and he can certainly lean on that.
Yeah, no, I just think a lot of what he's showing right now. So for me, that's I guess second to last one before 100-1. Is anybody else on your list who's sub triple digits?
So Daniel Gavins is someone I'm interested in looking at again as ever. I don't know if I'm going to play him because I keep thinking he's going to do something he doesn't, right? He's first, 7th, and 11th last 3 in strokes gained approach, first, 6th, 3rd strokes gained tee to green. So he's playing really, really well without the results coming. And, I just don't know what to expect. I mean, it should happen for him eventually. Like normally we see that this kind of long stretch of really good ball striking does get rewarded. And he was 6th at the Kenya Open, right? He wasn't terrible, but he's been like 35th and 40th the last 2 starts. But he's got that 6th at the Dunhill Links, which, you can kind of correlate to this if you like. Interestingly enough, Justin Harding's someone that's won in Kenya and won here as well, different courses for those two that actually won there. But just the kind of South Africa link to that, and I know Kenya's not in South Africa, but it's close enough. There's just enough to kind of force it. I was hoping for a bigger number, I must admit, like considering that the results are not there and there is a glaring weakness in the putter. But, he's an interesting name, I think.
Yeah. Man, his iron, it's just when those irons flash, they flash. I think there's definitely enough in the tank there. For me, again, it's once again leaning into off the DP World Tour. And honestly, these events probably are better. Maybe that's a stretch, but I would dare say the Asian Tour.
Carry on with what you're saying. Now, yeah.
The Asian Tour events are similar to the DP World Tour events right now. And Schwan Kim finally got over the line recently on the Asian Tour at the International Series in Thailand. Victory following up a second at that Royals Cup event. And then one of his, I think 2 events prior to that, he was 4th there. There was a stretch last summer that we bet Schwan like a month straight when all he was doing was making birdies, literally all he was doing. And if Ju Young is 29-1, does a golfer he doesn't have near the same pedigree, but I just felt that 80-1 just sits better with me than a sub 30 bet. And when you see what Schwan has done the last 2 times in the golf course, I will take it up against a lot of the guys in this range.
So you sort of hesitated to say that the Asian Tour events were better, and I don't think you're wrong to, because on Tour Tips they actually adjust the scoring based on strength of field, right? And he, over the last 8 weeks, those second and first leave him number 1 player in his field over the last 8 weeks in current form. So his actual scoring average is 67.92, adjusted 68.98, which is better than anyone. So just ahead of Oliver Becker and Adrian House, who you've already referenced. So to me, I think that's a really good sign. The thing I never know what to do with those guys is you don't know how they're doing it. Like I don't really know how it is that he's, we don't get the stats that we do for the other guys. And you could be a lot of putting. It could be a really good driver and that could have one, but the unknown bothers me. Whereas I know you like to kind of dive into that, and sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. It's at the price. It really doesn't matter, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's the reason to take the shots is the odds that we get with it. So that rounds out and we're still getting into some long shot territory here. That rounds out my 3 picks that are under 100-1. As we dip in, like you mentioned, anything kind of a pulse that you can get a feel on down here as somebody who you're willing to at least take a shot with the odds. Who stands out the most?
So the two early hundreds ones that I like, and then I'll go into the long shot later. But Jack Krojcevic, we mentioned that sort of South African link. 13th in back-to-back starts in strokes gained tee to green, trending form of 60th, 35th, 10th currently. Played here twice, made the cut twice, and he was 8th after 36 holes in 2019. Gained in all 4 categories last week, so there was no real weakness. He wasn't up in most, but he was, gaining, which is always nice to see. And like I said, that South African link, I really liked it. And he's a guy I've gone to a couple of times because I like the way he plays off the tee. And there is a kind of balance between not falling off a cliff. But I think Jack Krojcevic's got a lot to offer, and they keep kind of putting these 100-1 numbers out there that appeal to me.
Yeah, I mean, those numbers were that's probably triple what we saw him at these kind of stretches after he had a couple good finishes last year. Yeah, I think sticking with him, and if we're sticking with golfers, we've got a month off after this, Tom, and I promise during then we can talk about it. Okay, we can set up a time. We can produce maybe not a show, but just us three get together at a usual time. We all sit in a circle. We discuss if we're gonna keep going with Guido Migliozzi. And I'm going to, Tom. I'm going to. I'm not going to back it up with any stats or
there is
really
nothing.
anything. There isn't, Tom. But there's a number, and there's a chance for him to find any life before visiting Augusta. Because coming in at that form before Augusta, it's going to be a tough scene. We're going to find him on some miss the cut parlays. We're going to find him, maybe Pat and Jeff on a stream on Friday afternoon. Oh, there's Guido. Oh, it's good for him to make it this year. I have hope, still a little bit of hope in here that we can find it. And 125-1, man, that makes me sleep well at night.
I'm gonna give you some support. And this is completely opposite to what I've been doing for you for Guido Migliozzi.
I need it.
Where did Guido Migliozzi get one of his 2 victories?
Well, Kenya.
Who won Kenya? Who was the last person to win Kenya at Karen?
Justin Harding, and then he won here.
Who won
I love
Qatar?
it.
Exactly, yes. Right. So you've got that. Where did Guido finish in Qatar last year?
Second.
Yeah. It's not the same course. Absolutely nothing to do with it. But second in Qatar, winning Kenya. Okay, 4th in the Oman Open. Nice big, open venue where a little bit of wind effect.
Keep it coming.
Where tied 17th, Dunhill Links 2021.
Love it.
What else do we need for Guido Migliozzi? I mean, you don't need anything, but I'm actually giving listeners some sort of support.
Yes, they'll be there. They'll be there. Somehow, Tom, he's like still 10% owned every week at DraftKings.
Yeah, because I appreciate everybody.
I appreciate you guys having the faith.
The
contests keep getting smaller. 10%. On DraftKings, they keep getting smaller contests. So it's less and less that are able to play him, but we're going to keep riding out. So
that's how I know we're having an influence, because he is highly owned in DFS when he should not be.
Yeah. Let's hope this week's changes everyone's opinion that we can play him at the Masters. Tom, T20 here. We're going full send at Augusta.
First round leader, top Italian, everything. Just give it to me.
All right. I've got a couple more gambles as we go. Let's go one. Oh no, I just got one last one. You have 2 left. One, correct. I guess let's go rate. If we're going from one drug to the other, yours is a lot more compelling than mine this week. So please tell us about Ollie Wilson, because he popped on my sheets.
So it's funny. I slid into the DMs earlier with yourself and our wonderful producer friend and said, who is it that ranked inside the top 8 in tee to green last week, who has finished second on this golf course? Who is it? And you said Guido Migliozzi. And I said, no. I said, it's the other drug. I said, it's Oliver Wilson. He's got a 20th, a 5th, a 12th, and that second place finish, right? And when he was second, he was 10th after the first round, 4th after the 36 holes, 1st after 54. He was 13th in strokes gained approach last week, 5th in tee to green. Slightly different numbers you can see elsewhere, but actually some of them get better if you go on the DP World site. But generally speaking, so again, I just follow the Instagram stuff, and Oliver Wilson's very interactive on that. And he got in late last week, and he just said he's been hitting the ball well, got in, finished tied 33rd, I think it was, straight on Instagram. I hit the ball brilliantly. It's just a putter. And you always have to take those things with a pinch of salt, because what they think's brilliant and what their baseline is, and there's a lot to learn, right? But he was good. The ball striking was great, and he likes this part of the world. He's won the Dunhill Links. So, if you're going for any event he's ever won, it's the Dunhill Links. And that, like you say, is probably what you were referencing earlier with the kind of links pedigree. And that was a really impressive victory. And I just think that kind of the form is maybe a little bit better than people think. Like 11th at Mallorca, 12th at the Portugal Masters, 27th for Ras Al Khaimah, 33rd Stein City. Like there has been miscuts in between that, of course, but 4 top 33s in his last 8 starts. A very good record on this golf course. If Oliver Wilson's ever going to get another win, which that's up for debate. It took him a long time to get the first one, right? But if it's going to happen, I think this could be a really good course for him to do that.
You know what, Tom? You convinced me. You supported me when I needed you the most 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago. I'm right back here. I'm willing to put him to the card. We got some room on here, so we'll add one more man.
Is this a case of like going to like Alcoholics Anonymous and both taking each other to a pub? Is that happening, or are we taking each other out for pancakes and having an apple juice? I think we're being supportive, and I think it's productive, and I think it's good. I think Wilson's case is better. I've got to be honest. I think the price is, obviously better. Although that is coming in. Probably shouldn't be. No, but I think if Guido's if we're gonna see the turnaround from Guido, it's gonna be at this golf course. Yeah. Let's
1-2 finish. They have like the quinellas listed or like the exactas. Can we get the box, please? If one of those sports books that are listening, 1-2, we'll take it at 1,500 to 1. That sounds right.
When Jason, my co-host, was talking to me earlier about the people that he likes, I said, as long as you put it in the without Oliver Wilson market, you'll be fine. So that was how confident I am on him. Sebastian Soderberg was the other guy, and I think he's being overlooked a little bit. I was surprised by the number. It was 150 to 1 this morning. I don't quite know what the number is now, but he was 6th on approach last week, 2nd tee to green. He was 20th on his only start here, 25th, 16th, 47th, 10th his last 4 starts. Back-to-back top 2 T2 finishes at the end of last year. And this is a guy that, has a really impressive win on his resume. So I think he's actually being overlooked slightly.
Yeah. Our friend Ryan Baroff just is a Soderberg truther. So he'll be happy to see support whenever you can find it on Sebastian.
Beat Rory McIlroy in a playoff. What more do you want?
Absolutely.
And he won the Barclays Kenya Open. When it was a Challenge Tour event, he won at Karen, where Justin Harding won, where Guido won, where the next Qatar Masters winner is going to have won.
Yeah, there's a meme. I don't know if you guys get it in the States or it goes around the States. I don't know if you guys see it as much, but it's like one giant book and then it goes levels down all the way. You're basically giving us all the levels till Guido is our winner. So we're very
working
close. Well. And you mentioned earlier the 4th place in Oman for him. And that's where I'm going to round out my last selection. And I think the world has been waiting to see anything out of Sami Välimäki. I mean, he was as prolific as it comes on the lower tours. And what he won in like 5th, 6th start, right? I mean, that Oman Open was at long odds hit by multiple people in his, I believe, 6th ever start. A lot with the short game that week, but it was as windy as it came that week. Beat Brandon Stone in the playoff, hit that long putt. So you get his best finish in quite some time. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't because of great ball striking, but I mean, literally it's been since 2020, since we've seen a top 20 out of Välimäki. So to finish 16th, to get some good vibes going, to get to a course that potentially, might have some crossover vibes and a lot of wind, and at the number of 200 to 1, I like that a lot. I think he's deeper here than he is overseas, because 200s are still out there right now.
So I think, and I don't know this, what's the word I'm looking for? I know this analogy kind of gets over to the States, but I always say that one swallow doesn't make a summer. And I don't know if that's something that you guys say over there.
It might.
I'm worried because you said there that the ball striking wasn't good. And objectively speaking, worried is a ridiculous term when we're talking about a 200s one shot, right? Like we've just spoken about Guido and Ollie Wilson. So let's talk about a guy that's actually won in, recent times. That's Sami Välimäki. So the 16th is kind of the flash you need, and he is the finish flash, right? And there was some talk about him later on last season when he was 25th, I think it was at Valderrama, or top 30, something like that. And he kind of slowly kind of made cuts, but was finishing down the leaderboard. And it just worries me that we're all going to jump on. Now, with that said, you're jumping on 200 to 1. And I'm sure people are bored of this, and maybe our producer could just cut me saying this once so I don't have to keep repeating myself. But there's not a lot that needs to happen for a triple-digit guy to get on. So I think it's great. I mean, there's guys down here. And I mentioned last week sort of people that just look long, and Lorenzo Gagli is still playing well. Renato Paratore is again a massive price. Eventually, they're gonna hit. I think those guys. I mean, objectively speaking, Gagli finished 34th at Kenya, but it was good enough for me that he kind of flashed up. I'm pretty sure he's played well here before. I might be making that up, but I know he's definitely won the Kenya Open. Not at Karen though. That's the problem. So anyway, maybe I'm just getting too caught up in the Kenya Open web, which that actually just started while we were talking. So maybe I don't dive too much into that. But even like people like, Hayden Porteous, we keep mentioning, wide open, big driving, whatever. I don't want to keep throwing people at it. It's just, I eventually you just bore yourself, right? But I think that I'm pretty happy with the solid core that we've got. And I feel like a winner is going to come from our card. I don't know whose.
I love that.
Hopefully just one of us.
Yep. I feel great. It's good to have some confidence behind our picks, some backing overall. Let's run through that card one more time here.
Yeah, so I've got Ashton Wu at 65 to 1. We have got a consensus selection on Matty Schmid at 66 to 1. Don't know what to do about Daniel Gavins yet. Hit the ball very well, probably a DraftKings play. Jack Krojcevic, he was 100 and something to 1. Sebastian Soderberg again at 100, 150 to 1. And Oliver Wilson, the drug I cannot quit, at 200 to 1. He was 300 to 1 earlier, but I think Ben Coley put him up, which gives me further confidence but takes away my shine.
Yep. I'm going to be starting the card with Oliver Becker, 45 to 1. With you, like you said, on Matty Schmid, 66. Marcus Kinholt, 66 to 1. Schwan Kim, 80 to 1. Guido Migliazzi, 125. Sammy Valimaki, 200 to 1. And added to the card, Ali Wilson, 250 still in the States here.
250.
We can have us, we can be eating good, Tom, if we come alive here from our guys. Well, we would miss us listeners here for the next month. No DP World Tour for a little bit of time. So, Tom, enjoy your trip to the States here.
Thanks, buddy.
If anyone's up in New York, make sure to reach out to Tom, buy him a beer. So we just appreciate all your work, my friend, and hope you enjoy your holiday when you're over here.
Yeah, thank you very much, buddy. It's been, as I said on Twitter the other day, when you've got a really tough run of events, it takes... I mean, I'm quite enthusiastic about golf by nature, right? But sitting opposite you in this virtual way, it certainly lifts that. So, as I say, I appreciate your hard work. We're going to pat each other on the back here and give each other some praise and hopefully win a bet.
Yep, amen. And on the PGA side, it's my favorite week in golf. We'll be on with Pat tomorrow to have the DraftKings show there. So looking forward to chatting it up on both sides of the world. And best of luck to all the listeners this week. And we'll catch you guys soon. Thanks again.